Hey guys, this is Blake with the Three Hand Hunter channel, and I'm sure you're looking at this watch saying, hey, did I turn it into the right video? You know, when most watch enthusiasts, they think of microbrands, they think of microbrands that start with an H, they think about the Helm. This is the Helm Komodo, an amazing watch, ISO certified, and I can't wait to do a review of this watch. But today's video is not about Helm, because before there was Helm, there is a microbrand watch company called Hexa, and that's what today's video is on. Today is about the Hexa K74 Osprey, a very unique watch. And you know, if you've never seen one, it's not surprising because there's not a whole lot of information on the internet about these, and there's not a lot of this particular model around. This was a WatchUSeek collaboration in about 2014. From what I can gather, there's 100 of these in existence that have the unique WatchUSeek branding caseback, crown, and packaging, which I'll show you here in a little bit about the packaging. But this watch in itself is a really cool microbrand. And I have to say that I love microbrands that do things a little differently. And it has some unique features and ones you're not gonna see. You know, it's not like that off the shelf, you know, just homage of, you know, gaggle of every other pieces of different watches that are being produced in China. This is a really unique watch, and that I love, to be honest. So if you like content like this, if you like to see watches that you're just not gonna see on every YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It really helps me grow. It helps me, you know, motivates me to find you new pieces from time to time. I will review, you know, the Helms of the world and the Borealises of the world, but you know, this Hexa is really unique, and give me a thumbs up too if you like the content. I'd appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about Hexa, the brand. And I'm gonna take you over to their site because most of you that are familiar with Hexa are probably familiar with this very obscure, kind of strange watch that they built called the Hexa K500 and Q500, which is the automatic and quartz version. I have seen videos on those watches, and those are really cool. Very big, very bulky, and not obviously everybody's cup of tea. But if you look at the K74 Osprey, this is a more, you know, I would say, you know, traditional looking built watch. And I really have enjoyed my time with this watch. I've owned it for a while now, so I can speak a lot about the watch itself. But what you'll notice, and let's talk a little bit about the dimensions of the watch. This is a 42 millimeter watch. Now, what makes it wear like a 42 is the 50 millimeter lug to lug, right? That gives it a wider stance, but it's got 20 millimeter or 22, excuse me, millimeter lug widths, and the thickness or thinness of the watch is really only 13.5. And I measured actually smaller than that. I measured at 13.3. Let me see at the widest spot here. All right. Let me make sure I've got that zeroed in. I do, but you know, I'm actually even getting less than that. It's comes in just around 13 or just above. It's a pretty thin watch for as wide of a stance as it has. That's because it also houses the Miyota 9015 movement, and it's funny listening to, you know, reviewers of watches. People are, you know, a lot of reviewers will say, wow, you know, I'm seeing a lot of 9015, 90 series watches, but you know, this watch was built in 2014. They've been around for a while. You're just, you know, the NH35 is pretty common, and you see them in a lot of microbrand watches, but Miyota's been around just as long as this, and this watch actually runs pretty well based on my experience of owning it. Now, I want to talk about some of the specifics because, like I mentioned, one of the things that I love about brands like this is the watch is so unique. It's not off the shelf. Look at the details of this particular watch. You know, we have a lot of sharp edges. Notice the crown guards. Notice the crown, how it sticks out from the case. A lot of watches nowadays, you'll see them all. It seems like the crown is seated into the case or is flat to the case, you know, this watch actually pops out a little bit, the crown does, and there's a little gap down there, okay, in between the two. It doesn't have a ghost date position because there is actually a date at the 6 o'clock. The indices are applied. Notice the gray, beautiful gray dial. It's a really, really unique watch. You know what else is kind of unique about this watch? Look at the bezel and look at the grip that you get. Now, the bezel action is very tough. It's hard. And this specific watch, I think there's probably some grime in there because, you know, if you look at the case back here, there's a little bit of pitting, you'll notice right here in the case back. So I'm wondering if it had been sitting out in the elements for a while at some point, but the bezel action, I'm telling you, you're not going to knock it loose. Let's just put it that way. But it's very, very solid. I mean, there is like zilch backplay, but it also comes at a price because it is harder to manipulate. But I mean, if you're using it with, like, let's say diving gloves, and you're actually using this as this is a 300 meter water resistant watch. I mean, this is a tool, about as tool watch as they get, right? So I mean, if you're using it with a you know, wetsuit and gloves, you know, it's probably going to turn fine. You're going to get a better grip on it. Take a look at the lugs and notice how it's polished on top and brushed on the side. You don't see that every day. You really don't. Most of the time you're going to see brushed on top, polished on the side, or just brushed and brushed. But to see it polished on top and brushed on the side, it is, you know, not common. Go take a look at some of your collection. You're just not going to see it as often. I think it's opposite more often. Now, let's talk about the bracelet. The bracelet is very, very well built. Screw-in links, great articulation, but it does not taper. Okay, we have a diver's extension. Look at the clasp. There's perlage work. You know, if you've seen watches, Microbrands from like 2015, 2016, and before, a lot of them use this diver's extension or this particular clasp. It's actually a really handy clasp, and it fits this watch. Now, what you're probably thinking is, okay, there's no taper in the watch band. You know what I've noticed is a lot of watches that were from the 2010, 2014, you know, in this example, 2014 time horizon, a lot of bands were, you know, straight. But this is a very heavy watch, and because it's such a heavy watch, whenever you have a straight bracelet like this, it's going to keep the watch more secure on your wrist. You'll notice with the Helm, 20 millimeter, but it doesn't taper at all. So that is just really to keep this heavier watch head secure on your wrist. And I'll put it on my wrist here in a moment. But you'll notice, like, if you have like this Borealis has I have a Rio strap on it, 16 millimeter to 20, right? More comfortable, but not as secure. This is going to wear really secure on the wrist, and it is a, you know, it's a really, really nice and very comfortable wearing watch. So it is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. This is a ceramic bezel insert. So, you know, I mean, and you can see with the lume that I show you in the videos, it is a lume ceramic bezel insert, which is really nice. And it was a nice feature from way back in back in 2014, right? Sapphire crystal, AR coating on the inside, which works really well outdoors. You can see in some of the video, there's a very, very slight dome, but you'll notice that the watch, it wears really flat on the wrist. So let's go ahead and put it on the wrist so you can see it. Now, you know, I'm going to take you over to the Hexa website as I'm doing this. And the thing about this brand, you'll notice that some of the links, the Shopify has been disabled, so that hasn't been updated. So what that tells me is the owner of the brand just, you know, hasn't sold a watch in a while. And what's really unique is about this watch brand is, you know, the website is still up. You can see some of the previous models, but I've actually sent an email to see if I can get another case back for this Osprey, and I never got a response. So, you know, it'll be interesting. I look at brands like this and think, wow, they did something really cool and really unique. And nowadays, like I said, you know, you see all of these Chinese brands, or, you know, a lot of micro brands, and they all seem to source from the same factories, the same parts. It's like, well, I've seen that case on like 3 different watches, or I've seen that same handset. It's really refreshing to see something that was a micro brand from years ago that did something unique. And I wish more micro brands did it. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like Helm, if you're looking at a Helm watch, why they're so popular is because they are doing their own thing. Or you take a company like Notice, for example, they really bring some originality to these brands. And you know, I'm not gonna talk bad about certain watches, but you can tell really when you know, an owner puts their heart and soul into the design aspect of a watch. Is this watch perfect? No. I wish it had tapered bracelet. I really do. But I do think this watch is cool. And oh, I do need to show you let me just show you really quick. This is the Hexa. Let me see if I can zoom out just a little bit here. This is the Hexa box that it came in, but I want to show you something that's kind of unique, right? You can see this watch was from actually 2015, January 2015. But take a look at this. This is the dial, but this is a darker dial. It's like a black sunburst, where this is a gray sunburst. And I thought that was really unique. You know, if I ever want to swap out the dial, how cool is that? And then obviously extra links. But you can see this this watch box, very Hexa-ish. But anyway, guys, I really just wanted to show you the watch because I think it's such a unique watch. You know, whether I decide to keep it or not, I'm really not too sure, but I really enjoyed my time with it. And it's one of the things I love about these micro brand watches, especially some of these that are just not in existence anymore, is you're just not going to find this watch that often. You're just not going to see them that often. So it's nice to be able to see them from time to time and get a view of them, and hopefully you've gotten enough of a picture where you can say, oh, you know, I really like that watch. Or, you know, if you ever see one out in the wild, you're like, no, that's really not for me. So if you made it this far, let me introduce myself. My name is Blake. I'm a bit of a watchaholic. And if you made it this far, you probably are one too. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video.